Hey everyone, it's Andre Luck here to share my video for this week. And as you can see, I got my sticker on from voting today. It was a lot of fun. I got to take my oldest daughter and my youngest daughter with me. And anyone that knows me knows my oldest daughter, Bella. She's very inquisitive, and they're starting to learn about voting and the election, everything at school. They're actually going to do a mock election next week. But she asked a ton of questions, so it was a fun experience. And I had to go to my good friend Chat GPT to explain to her in one sentence how to explain the difference between a Republican and a Democrat to an 8-year-old. And then she continued to share her thoughts on what she read the entire time in line. So everyone got her unfiltered opinions of what she thought was right and what was wrong. But really cool experience, and I'm glad that I got to take them with me because that was fun. So today's video, I'm going to talk about the second problem that B2B sports teams face or sports teams face when it comes to B2B sales. So last week we talked about not being able to have business conversations as sellers. The second big problem you see on sports sales teams is the leaders, they're just stretched too thin, and they're from meeting to meeting and everything like that. And the solution to that is to take a lot of the best practices and document that and put it on paper. And now you have a playbook that you can work off of. So I can speak from experience. I always felt, and I talked to my wife, Brittany, about it. Like, we spent so much time in meetings, you could never actually execute what you talk about in meetings. You're just in this meeting to that meeting. And my life still, I feel like I operate on a 30-minute time clock because I was so regimented to doing that. Like, either the top of the hour, bottom of the hour, there was a meeting. And my entire day was filled with that. But when you don't create the space to then execute on that, you just get busy and busy and busy. So then when people come up to you with questions and you want to give answers, like you're rushed or you're not in the right state of mind, you're not present with them to do that. So this is one way that can help free up time for managers and leaders, but then also have a best practice and standards that people know of what good looks like, and you can hold people accountable to that, and you're operating more efficiently because you're getting everything from out of people's heads, because most people know what it's supposed to look like, especially your best people, but we never take the time to document it and put that on paper. So in sports, what I've noticed, a lot of teams have a playbook, but it's more B2C focused. And so what I'm talking about today is taking that and either building out and adding to it an extension that's B2B or a separate B2B playbook. And even in sports, you could then break it down by department. When we build a playbook, we worked with a consultant to do that. We had one for our experience team, which is more of the service side of the business. We had one for our groups team. We're looking to build one for our season ticket new membership sales team. So you could take it holistically, high level B2B, and break it down by different products. So why I think it's important, a lot of us are in sports or fans of sports, like coaches have playbooks and they bring their playbook to their new team. They bring in coaches that align with that playbook, and they operate and execute the plan every week in their games or every game that they have off their playbook. We should have the same thing in sales. So as a leader, as an organization, on here's how we drive revenue and here's how we execute sales, we should build that out and have that as well. So I'm going to talk through a few steps into building a good playbook, why you should have a playbook, what goes into it, and take some best practices from that. So the first thing I'll start is like, why should we have it? I touched on that a little bit, but it frees up leaders' time. Instead of always having to answer questions, you can push people back to the playbook, and they should know what good looks like and what they should be doing in every situation. So you want to think about every situation that's possible and document that and put that down. Then when you have a playbook, people aren't running their own plays. Like, the definition of a playbook, they're running the play that makes the most sense for your team, your market, what you know is successful. And so you have something that's consistent, something you could scale and build off of, because everyone knows the values, the way that we operate things. And so you have some consistency in that. And then when you bring new people into the mix, even if they're coming from other teams or organizations, here's our playbook and here's what we've deemed to be most successful. So it allows for quicker onboarding. It gets people up to speed quicker because they know exactly how to do pretty much everything that goes on in a day-to-day. When they make this type of call, here's how we go about it. When you make this type of sale, here's the steps in the process and the standard operating procedures from that. And I think this is a real way to differentiate from other teams in sports, because very few, if any, have anything that's B2B specific. So if you can come in, let's say you want to be a VP of sales, you can go into your interview and say, here's my playbook that I've seen successful, and you could bring that in. Obviously, you have to make some tweaks based on the market and the team and everything like that. But many people don't go in with the playbook like that. So that's going to differentiate you as a leader if you're interviewing for a role, or even just other teams who are just kind of doing things as they come, but there's no real thought process or structure behind it. So what goes into a playbook? From a high level, you want to think about like what are the best practices, the values, the beliefs we have when it comes to how we show up every day as a professional. How do we make decisions? How do we go? What's our sales process? Do we have a methodology that we want to follow? So all that is documented and that's in the playbook. And you want to have metrics that you're measuring and KPIs that are successful, because if people just go and kind of operate, how they think is best, they may think what they're doing is good, but you actually have metrics and key performance indicators that say, hey, here's what good looks like in every different type of situation. Also, what goes into it, you want to take your ideal customer profile and be very thorough with what that looks like, and build out your buyer personas and different trends within your market. There's actually an organization I'm working with outside of sports where we're looking to build that out, and all the different categories that they focus on. And within those categories and within that industry, here are the personas that we work with. Here are the responsibilities they have. Here's the challenges that they face. Here's how our solution can help overcome that, so that you can always go back to that. You're not making it up, and you're not having to ask a ton of questions. You go into the conversation already knowing. So really being thorough about all the personas that you sell to, all the industries that you sell to. How we kind of did this, in an old school way when I was in sales, was we took everyone that had, expertise in industry. So if someone had commercial real estate, or if someone had construction, and it's not even like they were really experts in it, they just maybe made a few sales on it, they would give their industry analysis, and they would share on a weekly basis, like, here's how I've learned to sell tickets to this industry. And then we'd all get a printout, and we would take that, and that would be kind of our industry analysis. And it'd take, months to go through every different industry, because there's 10 people on the team. So each one got a week, where now you just have it all documented from the get-go. So you get a call in from a construction company. In the moment, you're probably not going to be able to go to it. But as you get deeper in the process, you can look, right, what are other construction companies you work with? What do we know the personas, and how do we help best fit this persona? Or when you're going outbound or you're starting a new campaign, all that's documented there. So you want to take that, have your value propositions, everything that helps you have success with the different persona and the different industries that you focus on. And then you want to map out your sales process from start to finish. What does that look like when you are about to reach out to a lead? What are all the steps that you follow before you prospect and do your outreach? When you do outreach, what's the best touch point sequence? How many phone calls do you make? How many emails do you want to make? Where does LinkedIn and messaging like that fit into the mix? So really mapping out your sales process. And then after you make the call and book the meeting, what are the steps that you follow? Once you get a meeting set, what do all you do to make sure that you confirm at a high rate? Post the meeting, what's your follow-up process? So taking all the things that have worked and literally documenting it out from start to finish, post-sale, when you're looking to transition that account over to an account manager, and what does that look like post-sale to retain at a high rate? Like, all that's laid out and documented. Your prospecting process, like, how do you go about prospecting? I'm a big believer in working inside out. So what I mean by that is, instead of just focusing on all brand new people from a B2B perspective, there's so much opportunity within your current base. So making sure that you have a standard operating procedure on, all right, all the people, all the first party data we have in our CRM system, and all the people that we already have and have done business with, or maybe they didn't renew with us, or we had a meeting with, like, what's the best way to follow up with them, so that we're getting quicker, easy wins. Because when numbers aren't there, people are freaking out. Like, we got to do these things. There's probably money sitting there that we just need to have a structured process towards. And that'll help inform how you go outbound to find brand new people. Case studies, success stories, testimonials, like, those are huge. So again, for like a new hire coming in, that maybe is focusing on manufacturing companies, you could list out here are the top 10 spenders of manufacturing companies and how they use their tickets. So when they're in the meeting with somebody, they can talk about here's the 5 companies you work with, or here's one that's most similar to you and how they use our tickets, and here's how they're seeing success. They achieved a 5x ROI on their spend. I can't guarantee or promise you're going to get the same thing, but here's how they're seeing success. And I think we could build something that's going to help you achieve results as well. So you want to have that laid out from a training perspective. What works, what doesn't work, what are activities. If you have a new manager coming in, they can look and see here's our process for training, and here's what's worked for us, and here's what hasn't. And then, yeah, the big piece for me where I think there's a big opportunity to document process is the account management process, specifically B2B. I think there's a ton of money in your current account base that if we coach our account managers and the customer success team on how to best expand those accounts, renew those accounts, have a sales mindset with that, there's a ton of money and a ton of opportunity in that. Where I'll wrap up here is like tips to once you have the playbook built to fully leverage it and maximize it for your team. So one thing you should always do is always optimize it. It's not a one-time exercise, set it and forget it. It's something that as new information comes up, you should be adding to it. You could put meetings on the calendar on a quarterly basis where you're checking in and like, let's review the playbook. What's new? What new has happened? What new information do we have? And how do we change and update that? Uh, get the whole team involved. This shouldn't be an exercise of just the leaders or just the head of sales or the CRO building out the playbook. One, you don't know everything, but two, if you want buy-in, you have to involve and include people in the process. So giving them certain tasks about it, having them map out, hey, you're going to take the sales process and document that. And obviously we check it and review it as a group. But if you give some leaders, the key leaders on your team, ownership, to kind of go out and build it, they're going to be more invested and bought in to making sure other people use it because they put time and energy into it, and they're feel like it's part of theirs. They're part of the team because they all help build this out and create this culture and this playbook of how you do things. So getting as many people involved and getting differences of opinions and thoughts and talking it out is going to be a good way to make sure nothing gets missed. I've heard of some teams and some companies make people sign the playbook, so there's an extra level of accountability. It's not just we read it and went through it, but like, hey, do you agree to uphold this playbook? So that's a good way to get people's commitment and get them to hold themselves accountable to it as well. When you're looking at best processes to define, don't look at necessarily the person with the most revenue because they may just do things that other people can't. It can't be replicated. Look for people that have the most consistent and best metrics. Who's setting meetings on a regular basis? Who's having quality opportunities on a regular basis? Who has a process that could be replicated by the majority? And then your elite people could take, all right, here's the process for, that middle 80%, 70, 80%, and they're going to take it and add their extra spend to it, which makes them elite and top performers anyway. But look to build something for the whole and not just for here's how the best person does it. If they have consistent metrics, then yeah, let's replicate their process too. One that's tough for me because I'm a helper and I want to make sure that I answer people's questions is you have to direct them back to the playbook. So when someone comes in, they're flustered and they have a question, if it's in the playbook, point them back to it. Say, hey, it's in your playbook. Like, go look that up. If you can't find it, then let's talk about it. But you have to get people using it, or it doesn't achieve the goal of one, them taking ownership and accountability of their role as an elite salesperson, but also freeing up your managers and your leaders to have the bandwidth to think more strategically and run the department and focus on things that they can be more proactive with. So it teaches them and coaches them because they're reinforcing the learning because they're actually going back into it. But then also, you're not just giving people the answers all the time. So I've seen that playbooks can free managers' time up to 50% in a given week. So this is a good way, like, hey, direct them to it. It's going to be tough sometimes and they don't want the answer right then and there. But if you've gone through it and you know it's in the playbook, point them to that section and have them look into it. The last piece I'd say is the rollout. I've failed with playbook rollouts before. I've had success with them before, but it's not just, hey, here's the playbook. let's, go look through it and let's talk about it. But having a structured process, like dedicating time to make sure that everyone's, you got their attention, they're all focused on it, you're getting their feedback as you're rolling this out. So really taking time, almost blocking off like a retreat or offsite or something like that, where everyone, hey, we're going to go through this playbook we built, or as you make additions to it, or every year, like we're going to dive back into the playbook and just reset on our values and best practices. So the rollout's super important as it relates to building out a good and strong playbook. So those are some of the tips I have, and some of the things that I've seen work very well. At the end of the day, I think it's great if you can document all your processes and push people back to that. And then as you build and grow, you're continuing to add to it, and you have a structured process that people can get behind and feel bought in as they're building it out. So, love to hear any feedback. If anyone has success from playbooks, or any other tips, share that. But next week, I'll share the third problem that we see with sports sales teams as it relates to B2B sales and a solution to that as well. So appreciate you tuning in. Everyone have a great day.